Hey, I used your lottery winnings to buy this convertible, so you don't have any complaints, right? He said to me, acting all smug. Yeah, sure. I would never say that. Using my money without permission to buy an expensive car, and for the worst reason possible. So I let him learn his lesson. Oh, how much do you think the winnings were? What? I'm definitely not letting this slide, so be prepared. My name is Lucia. I still want to enjoy my 20s, but I'm already 28. I feel like my energy has significantly dropped since I hit 25. I used to think colds would go away with just some sleep, but lately, they don't seem to get better even with rest. Health really is the most important thing. These days, my greatest joy comes from doting on my adorable 1-year-old daughter. But when I was pregnant with her, I had an unbelievably terrible husband. My husband Thomas is 2 years older than me, and we've been together since our college days, sharing many years together. We met in a college club, both young and full of dreams, promising each other a future together. Thomas is the complete opposite of me, introverted and serious. He once told me that he was drawn to my smile when we first started dating, which made my heart flutter. The first person to notice my feelings was my best friend, Regina. Regina, who I've known since elementary school and who loves fashion, also went to the same university as me. While I was sociable and had many friends, I was terrible at romance. Regina always gave me spot-on advice. Lucia, if you like him, you have to tell him. What if Thomas ends up with someone else? But have confidence. You're cute, Lucia. I can vouch for that as your best friend. So go for it. Okay. Thanks, Regina. With her advice, I decided to start dating Thomas. As we got to know each other better, we discovered shared hobbies and interests, which brought us joy. Both Thomas and I loved movies, so we made it a point to have a movie date at least once a month. We would place the popcorn in the middle, and every time our hands touched, we would blush. Feels like ages ago now. After that, we'd enjoy coffee at a cafe, cherishing our time together, which was the happiest thing for us. Naturally, this led to marriage, and as a couple, our bond grew even stronger. Life with Thomas was peaceful, and we hardly ever fought. 6 months into our marriage, we received some wonderful news. Happy birthday, Lucia! Let's keep being happy together.
Thank you. But it's not just the two of us anymore.
What? From now on, we'll be happy as 3. When I gave a thumbs up while rubbing my belly, Thomas hugged me tightly with joy. We vowed to be happy as a new family. As soon as we found out about the pregnancy, I started suffering from morning sickness. I feel so sick. Are you okay? No, not at all. Thomas was worried, but the nausea wouldn't go away. This might have been when I started to notice changes in him. But I was too overwhelmed with my own situation to realize. Unable to cook because of the nausea, I spent my days lying down, especially when Thomas came home late and there were no chores done. During the early stages of pregnancy, I was mostly bedridden, but when I felt better, I started going out again. One day, I heard an announcement from the local lottery booth. Today is a lucky day. On such an auspicious day, why not buy a lottery ticket? I stopped when I heard the announcement from the lottery ticket booth in the neighborhood. I've heard that being pregnant brings good luck, so I thought, why not try my luck this once? The odds were low, but I decided to buy a ticket. And I put that lottery ticket in the drawer of my vanity table. As my morning sickness started to ease up, I returned to work and gradually got back to my usual routine. However, I had completely forgotten about the lottery ticket. Wait, where did I put it? I'm always misplacing important things, so I desperately tried to remember where I had kept the ticket. Oh, right, I put it in the vanity table drawer. Remembering that, I enjoyed my tea time while comparing the lottery ticket with the TV. What kind of future awaits if I win? It's always the most fun to dream about these things. Before I knew it, the results were down to the last digit, and up to that point, I had all the numbers right. What should I do? What should I do if I win this, but maybe I won't win? My heart was pounding so loudly that I could hardly hear anything else. As I anxiously waited for the final result to be announced. Oh my gosh. I won. I did it. I struck a victory pose, forgetting I was pregnant, and jumped up and down. No matter how many times I checked, the numbers didn't change. I did it. I can't wait to tell Thomas. Come to think of it, we haven't had dinner together lately. Because my morning sickness made the smell of food unbearable, Thomas had been considerate and often ate out. As a result, we had stopped having meals together. I'll definitely talk to him when he gets home today. With my morning sickness easing up and more comfortable days ahead, I thought we could start spending time together again. Hi, I'm home. In the end, Thomas came home just before midnight. Welcome back. You're late. Yeah, I've been busy lately. I ate out after overtime. He looked exhausted from work, but surely he would be happy to hear this news. Hey, listen. I have some news. Sigh. Can't you see? See what? I'm really tired. I know, but at least listen. Oh, come on, leave me alone. I'm tired, so tell me later. Thomas shouted, loosening his tie, and walked heavily towards the living room. He doesn't have to be so angry. I swallowed the words that rose to my throat. Thomas took a beer from the fridge, sat down on the sofa, and turned on the TV, ignoring my presence. He didn't have to be that cold. But it didn't seem like the right time to talk about the lottery, so I decided to wait for another day. Even though there were several opportunities to talk, Thomas seemed to avoid being alone with me and hardly came home. Even when he was home, he treated me like I was invisible, turning up the TV volume and starting to drink beer. His indifferent attitude, never willing to listen to me, filled my heart with sadness. When did things start to go wrong? Desperate, I called my best friend Regina. Maybe he's just tired? You're overthinking it, Lucia. Try talking to him again. I'm sure he was just tired. Yeah, you're right. I'll try. Thanks, Regina. Of course. You can always talk to me. Her words gave me a little bit of strength. I recently learned that Regina worked as a temp at my husband's company. I realized that I had been too focused on myself and hadn't been considerate of Thomas. The lottery win that was supposed to bring us happiness seemed to cast a shadow over our hearts. Would we continue to be in this relationship like this? In the midst of my chaotic emotions, I stood in the center of the house. The subtle distance between Thomas and me had become more apparent over the past few weeks. There was an invisible but definite wall between us. I believed that someday this wall would come down, and until that day, I decided to maintain the status quo. However, that moment came in an unexpected form, and instead of mending our relationship, it further deepened the wounds. One holiday, Thomas was at home for the first time in a while. Thomas looked lighthearted and buoyant as if something good had happened. Seeing Thomas humming while fiddling with his smartphone, I couldn't help but speak to him. You seem to be in a good mood. Oh, you can tell? Anyone can tell if you're humming. Really? You can tell? Did something good happen? As if he had been waiting for that line, he stood up and gave me a shocking confession. Actually, I bought a convertible with your $100,000 savings. I was at a loss for words at the sudden revelation. A convertible? My $100,000? What is he talking about? However, Thomas continued with joy. So, it's a convertible. I'm going to pick it up now, and then I'll go for a drive. Wait, hold on. What do you mean by my $100,000? I just borrowed it because I found your bank book. Didn't you win the lottery? That's amazing. No, it's not amazing. And how did you know? Huh? It doesn't matter. Shut up. If you go against me, it's divorce. What? Thomas threatened me, who was pregnant, saying that it would be tough if we divorced, and hinted at the struggles of being a single mother, saying that children need a father. More than the word divorce, I was stunned by Thomas's attitude, which had changed drastically in the past few days. Was Thomas always like this? How did the introverted and serious Thomas change so much? Beyond anger, I just felt sad. Thomas went out to pick up that convertible. I stood alone in the house, trying to figure out what had changed him so much. The current Thomas was clearly different from the old Thomas. Something was wrong. In order to find the cause, I searched Thomas's suit pockets and bags, and a mountain of credit card receipts came out. In front of the pile of receipts, I focused my eyes like a detective on the details. 3 receipts with the same date. Each for a restaurant, a grocery store, and a hotel. The grocery store receipt listed rubber products. It was like experiencing a date through the receipts. Enjoying a meal, shopping near the hotel, and spending the night at the hotel. The name of the hotel in the neighboring town confirmed my suspicion. Thomas had been going as far as the neighboring town without me noticing. Although this couldn't be called definitive proof of infidelity, there were clearly suspicious shadows scattered in his actions. One night, accustomed to Thomas's indifference, he came home drunk, threw his clothes around, and sank into the sofa. His smartphone continued to vibrate. On the screen were the words "Love you." The sender was Ree. Is this the name of his affair partner? Messages kept coming. Thank you for today. Love you, Thomas. Can't wait to see you again. The content made my heart stir. And I took a screenshot. Among them, there was the word convertible. He bought a convertible with my money for her. My heart swayed with anger and sadness. In my happy family, Thomas was having an affair. However, I couldn't deny the reality, and I calmly considered my next move. Divorce, for me, and for the baby that is coming. I started gathering evidence and collecting information about his mistress. When I learned that they were going on a trip, I made my decision. I will expose all their sins. I will provide the thrill they are seeking. The next weekend, I told Thomas that I would stay at my parents' house. I'm considering giving birth in my hometown. Considering you come home late, it might be better for me to raise the child there for a while. That's a pretty good idea. Don't worry about me. Go ahead. There was an unmistakable joy in his voice. Thank you. I'll proceed with those plans then. It's true that I plan to give birth at my parents' house, but I don't plan to leave that day. If my plan succeeds, those two will surely enjoy their secret meeting. Then the day arrived. I left the house in the morning, rolling my suitcase behind me. Thomas saw me off with a smile. Once he disappeared into the house, I slipped into the cafe across the street. From the window seat, I had a clear view of our front door. I disguised myself and waited. Knowing her, she would come over as soon as I left. I had installed cameras in the house for security. When I checked the footage from the cameras in the living room and bedroom, Thomas was typing a message on his smartphone. And 2 hours later, just as I expected, the mistress appeared. Oh, what a sight! She was dressed up happily. and she entered our house boldly. I waited a bit longer to act. That way, I could get the decisive photos. As the long-awaited moment approached, my body started trembling. Finally, the time had come. Get ready. After more than 30 minutes, they disappeared into the bedroom. Seizing the moment, I headed home. With each step, I felt more determined to corner them as I quietly opened the front door. They were so absorbed that they didn't notice my presence. Without making a sound, I advanced to the bedroom, camera ready, and flung the door open. The sound of the door opening made them turn around in shock. But when they recognized me, they panicked in a ridiculous manner.
What? What's going on? Wait, what?
Thomas was so flustered that he fell off the bed, pathetically sprawling on the floor. I looked at him with disdain and sighed in exasperation. Ugh, you're both the worst. I gave them a contemptuous look.
Oh no, why?
The woman wrapped the sheet around her naked body.
Nice to meet you, Ree. Or should I call you Ms. Regina?
She answered with a trembling voice.
This is,
Yes, Thomas's mistress was my best friend, Regina. When I consulted her, she was already involved with Thomas, pretending to listen to me without knowing anything. Unbelievable. If only it were a woman I didn't know. Of all people, why her? When I found out that Regina was the mistress, I was shocked by the betrayal of my best friend and by Thomas's deceit. I couldn't find the words. It took me some time to accept the reality, but when I thought about the baby in my belly, divorce was the only thing on my mind. Just sit down there for now, I said quietly, my anger barely contained, as I glared sharply at the two of them. Fearful of my intensity, they obediently sat on the floor, their fists clenched on their knees, faces pale. If you have something to say, I'll listen.
Lucia, help me. Thomas forced me into this.
Excuse me? What did she just say? Trying to gain my sympathy, huh? Ridiculous.
I kept saying no, but Thomas insisted it would be fine if we kept it a secret, and he forced this relationship on me.
Tears streaming down her face, making a show of it. Oh, I can't bear to watch. Enough with the fake tears. I know everything already. Just tell me the truth. Speaking calmly without wavering, now it was Thomas's turn to speak.
No, actually, Regina said she had terrible shoulder pain, so I was just giving her a massage, right? Yeah. That's it.
I've been having awful pain lately. As if anyone would believe that. Did they really think I would say? Is that so? No way in hell. Oh, and did the shoulder pain go away? Huh?
Yeah, it got so much better. Thanks, Thomas.
You're welcome. You've never given a massage in your life. Tell a better lie. I'm speechless. I sighed deeply, looking at the two of them in turn. Sweat of panic was forming on their foreheads. As you should know, this means divorce.
No, wait. Please.
I'm not waiting.
I don't want to separate.
You're standing there naked, saying that? Disgusting.
No matter how much they apologized, I wasn't going to forgive them. And by the way, the $100,000 you spent on that convertible needs to be returned. My savings from before marriage are not part of our joint assets. What are you talking about? Didn't you win the lottery?
And how do you know about that? I never told you anything.
The room fell silent as Thomas looked at Regina.
You heard her say she won the lottery, right?
Regina grimaced and nodded. I smiled and said, Well, what misunderstanding did you have? I asked them.
What do you mean?
How much do you think I won? Thomas confidently replied.
$300,000, right? That's why I bought the convertible.
I revealed the truth to him.
Oh? That's strange. Where did you get $300,000 from?
I only won $30. Thomas's eyes widened in shock.
What?
They were both astonished.
I said I won $30. Regina must have misunderstood the digits.
Regina panicked, and Thomas trembled at the thought of his enormous debt. I coldly said,
Divorce is a given, and I'm demanding alimony from both of you. I've already contacted a lawyer.
Thomas pleaded desperately.
Wait, I can't live without you.
I firmly replied.
And you'll also be paying child support and returning the $100,000 for the car.
Thomas showed a face of utter despair.
No way, that's impossible.
I sneered. Impossible or not, you'll pay.
You can sell the car if you have to.
But. However, I still had more to say.
By the way, when did this start?
Huh? I questioned them harshly.
When did your relationship start?
Regina reluctantly answered.
Since college.
I had already uncovered their past using a private investigator, and I knew all about their true nature.
So, you managed to deceive me all this time. Does my happiness really bother you that much?
She spoke with resentment.
Yes, I've always hated your attitude. You always got all the attention. All the guys were crazy about you instead of noticing me.
Regina's jealousy burned like a fire against me. Indeed, Regina was flashy and outspoken. She was somewhat disliked by our peers. But I couldn't believe she held such extreme jealousy. And the reason Thomas chose me over her was even worse. The recording of their conversation I found during the investigation.
Hey, why did you choose Lucia?
Well, she was popular at the club, and we all bet on who could win her. I won, of course.
That's what they said. Thomas's kindness towards me was just a facade. The real Thomas was a womanizer, always dating multiple women simultaneously.
I don't care about the past anymore. But I can't forgive you for deceiving me. You will pay. Please, wait. I don't want to leave you.
Just then, the doorbell rang at the perfect moment. Oh, good timing.
Who's here?
Seeing the person who walked in, Thomas started trembling.
Thomas, how could you? Dad. Why are you here?
It was Thomas's father who entered. Thomas's father ran a company and came from a wealthy family. Thomas and Regina, who was a contract employee at the company, were rumored to be having an affair. When I told Thomas's father the truth, he promised to make them take responsibility. I had asked him to ring the doorbell 30 minutes after I confronted them. Thomas, always intimidated by his authoritative father, was terrified by his appearance.
None of that matters. You betrayed Lucia, and you even had an affair at work. You are no longer my son. Wait, Dad, please. What should I do? Stop whining. Sign this now.
Crying from his father's disownment, Thomas signed the divorce papers as instructed. Crying continuously, Thomas stopped speaking altogether, perhaps out of sheer fear of his father. Regina, more terrified of the company president than her boyfriend's father, cowered completely. Ignoring their pleas, I took the divorce papers and walked away. Thomas and Regina were fired from their company after their affair became known. Further investigation revealed Thomas had been meeting various women through social media, and the number was countless. I regretted ever trusting a man like him. Then, Regina's pregnancy was discovered, and Thomas was held responsible. But unwilling to stay with her, he suddenly fled one night. Regina desperately searched everywhere and finally caught Thomas. At first, Regina's parents were furious with their daughter, but once they found out she was pregnant, their anger shifted towards Thomas, the soon-to-be father. Now, Thomas is practically imprisoned at Regina's parents' house. Regina's father, who used to be a former gang member, keeps a close and intimidating watch over Thomas, making his life quite stressful. I managed to get compensation, child support, and the $100,000 for the convertible back from the divorce settlement. Now, I'm living in a new apartment with my beloved newborn daughter. And, with a $30 lottery ticket, I won big at the horse races. Well, it was actually just $300. But I decided to use this money for our future. In the warm, sunlit living room, spending precious moments with my little one brings a new light into my life. My daughter's smile gives me the greatest reward I could ever ask for.
Take me to the cafe where Dad and Mom used to go before you two got married.
My daughter Emily asked us, so we headed to the nostalgic cafe with her.
Dad and Mom were close even before I was born, right?
How would I remember? How about you, Evan?
Don't remember something from so long ago.
After a while, the waiter brought over 2 large puddings. 15 years ago, when Evan and I were dating, we often had this pudding.
By the way, it's been exactly 15 years since we got married.
As I took a bite, I realized something and checked the date on my phone.
Today is Dad, Mom, happy 15th anniversary.
I was overwhelmed by the unexpected surprise from my daughter.
Dad, Mom, please stay happy together forever.
I was so glad that Emily had grown up to be such a kind daughter.
Yeah, it's delicious. The pudding that you treated us to is really delicious, Emily.
When I said this to her with a big smile, she smiled back at me.
Emily is growing up so quickly without us even noticing,
I said, glancing casually at my husband, Evan. In that moment, I decided that today would be the last day we would be a family. My name is Marcia, and I'm 40 years old. I work part-time at a local supermarket and live with my husband Evan and our daughter Emily. Both Evan and I love children, so we naturally dreamed of having a family after getting married. However, years passed, and I still couldn't have children. This is something that just happens, so there's nothing we can do, Evan said to comfort me, but as we got older, I started to feel more and more anxious. Even though we went to the hospital for tests, neither of us had any problems. Knowing there was a possibility, we researched everything we could about trying to conceive whenever we had time. Evan was supportive and understanding, but my PIL were harsh with me.
Marcia, don't you have children yet? We won't live forever, and we'd love to see our cute grandchild soon.
Every time my mother-in-law Caddy visited our apartment, she would say that. At first, her tone was gentle, but as time passed with no results, her words became harsher.
Evan's classmate just had their 3rd child. The eldest is already in middle school. And Evan doesn't have any children yet? What's going on?
Indirectly criticizing me for not being able to conceive. I began to feel increasingly uncomfortable around her. Sean, my father-in-law, shared Caddy's opinion.
We had Evan about a year after we got married. How long have you been married to him?
It's been 9 years.
And still no children?
Every time I saw them, all I could do was bow my head and apologize.
In the past, a wife who couldn't have children would be divorced and sent away immediately. Nowadays, it's a much more forgiving time. That's right. Men these days spoil their wives, and that's why the number of children isn't increasing. Mom, Dad, enough already!
Evan stepped in between me and his parents, defending me. Normally gentle, he always stood up for me, especially when it came to the topic of children.
Marcia is trying so hard to have a child. She's even careful about her diet. Don't push her any further.
Caddy sneered at this.
If she's trying that hard and still can't conceive, then maybe she has some problem. What do you mean by that? How can you say it's her fault? The hospital results showed no issues with her body.
Caddy looked at him with a surprised expression. But isn't it true? She looked him in the eyes.
If children are a gift from God, it wouldn't be strange for her to have one or two by now. Since she can't, it must be her fault. Yes, Caddy is right. Marcia must be doing something wrong.
My parents-in-law nodded in agreement.
What era are you living in? Don't stress her with these unscientific reasons. Mom, Dad, stop interfering with our lives.
Evan forcefully escorted his parents out of the house.
Don't let what Mom and Dad said bother you, Marcia.
Evan comforted me with kind words, and I held back my urge to run away and face the infertility treatments. Evan did his own research on ways to conceive. Every time he found new information.
How about this? Maybe we should try this?
He would suggest. I tried everything I could. Maybe it was because of these efforts that, after 10 years of marriage, I finally became pregnant with our first child.
Thank you, Evan. Without your support, I might have given up on having a child by now. I might have run away from this harsh reality.
What are you talking about? You're the one who has been working so hard, Marcia. I just did what I could. Right now, it's not about me. It doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl. Just give birth to a healthy baby. Even when I felt overwhelmed with anxiety during my first pregnancy, just feeling his presence near me gave me courage. Then, as spring arrived, I safely gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Evan and I named our daughter Emily. Holding our newborn child in my arms, I found every feature, from her still-forming eyes, nose, and mouth, utterly lovable. This child was born to us, and now she was sleeping peacefully in my arms. Determined to ensure she would have a happy life, I vowed to overcome any hardship for her sake. As I felt her tiny heartbeat and gentle breaths, I swore to protect Emily with all my might.
Looking at her sleeping face, she looks just like you, Marcia.
You can't tell that yet. Don't you think her ear shape resembles yours?
Really? Her nose looks like yours. She'll definitely grow up to be beautiful.
Just then, there was a knock on the hospital room door, and my parents-in-law entered, their faces devoid of smiles. My heart, full of happiness, suddenly darkened as if clouds had gathered.
Congratulations, Marcia. You finally had a child.
It was as if they were implying I had been refusing to have a child all this time. Still, I decided to welcome them with a big smile. Seeing their grandchild's face might soften the expressions of my parents-in-law. Somewhere in my heart, I hoped for this. However, the moment Caddy looked at Emily's face, she exclaimed,
"After waiting for 10 years, and this is the result? I'm utterly speechless."
She didn't even attempt to touch Emily.
"If you were going to have a child, it should have been a boy. This is absolutely unacceptable."
She dramatically placed her hand on her forehead and sighed.
"Well, it's a girl this time, but next time, make sure to have a boy. We're counting on you."
You're acting like Emily doesn't even exist. Did you come here just to say that? That's not it. We're simply hoping for a male heir for the family. Whether it's a boy or a girl, as long as the child is healthy, that's all that matters.
Evan, the furious, was stopped by me tugging on his sleeve.
"I'm sorry for not meeting your expectations, Sean, Caddy."
Marcia, make sure to reflect on this and have a proper boy next time. Though, given your age, we're not expecting much.
With those words, my parents-in-law left the hospital room.
They have no idea what they're talking about.
"I'm sorry."
You have nothing to apologize for, Marcia.
The way my parents-in-law treated me and Emily was deeply hurtful. However, Evan's empathy and support were my only solace. Despite this, my parents-in-law continued to disregard me and Emily at every opportunity. Caddy seemed to think that not having a son was a disgrace to the family. When it came time to introduce newborn Emily to the relatives, one of them congratulated me. Caddy quickly interrupted. Unfortunately, it's not a boy. By the way, are we good on food? We should prepare more beer since more guests will arrive. She diverted the topic away from Emily and me.
Please, stay out of sight in front of the relatives. The room next door is empty, so go play with Emily there.
Caddy treated us like nuisances, physically distancing us from the family. 3 years passed, and Evan began to change. He used to be supportive, but now he was coming home late and often absent even on his days off, citing work as the reason. Initially, I accepted it as part of his busy job, but his behavior towards Emily also grew cold. One evening, as the front door opened,
Dad's home. Dad's home.
Emily dropped her picture book and ran to hug Evan's legs. Previously,
Hey, Emily. I'm home. Were you a good girl?
Evan would have smiled and lifted her up. But recently, without a hint of a smile, he said,
I'm tired. Marcia, take care of Emily.
He forcibly removed Emily, who clung to his legs. Unfazed,
Dad, hug me.
Emily persisted.
Be quiet. You're giving me a headache. If you don't behave, I'll throw you out.
Emily, shocked by her beloved dad's harsh words, burst into tears. There, it's okay. Don't be scared. After she calmed down, I looked at Evan.
Whatever's happening at work, you shouldn't take it out on Emily. Shut up. What do you know? Don't speak to me like that until you've given me a son.
Evan had changed so much in the past 3 years that I could hardly recognize him.
Why are you saying things like that? You sound just like Caddy. I've come to realize that my mom was right about everything once I had a child of my own.
With a sigh, Evan loosened his tie.
I don't need dinner. I'm going out.
He left the house without even changing clothes. Dad, where did he go? Is it because I was a bad girl?
No, sweetie. Dad loves you more than anything in the world.
Was it the stress from work? I kept telling myself it was just a phase, but his attitude never softened. Instead, Evan started taking out his frustrations on me as well, despite my busy days filled with housework, childcare, and part-time work. Exhausted from parenting, I began to consider divorce due to the changes in Evan.
Emily, do you love Dad? I love Dad. But I love you too, Mom. Mom, don't you love Dad?
Looking into Emily's clear, innocent eyes, I couldn't bring myself to divorce him. I hoped he would return to his former self and that someday we could reconcile with my parents-in-law. But Evan's behavior only worsened, and our relationship with my PIL remained strained. Evan's absence became routine, and even on Emily's 5th birthday, he didn't contact us. Dad's at work again? Sitting in front of her birthday cake, her eyes were filled with sadness. Yes, sweetie. He loves you so much that he's working hard to make you happy.
He is amazing.
Here, this is a present from Dad. I handed her a teddy bear that I had bought myself.
It's so cute. I'm glad Dad is my dad.
By this time, Evan had stopped depositing most of his salary into our bank account. Worse, the balance was gradually decreasing without my knowledge. Could he really be? My distrust of Evan grew day by day. Fearing that our life might be disrupted, I made several promises with Emily. Turn off the lights when they're not in use. Go to bed by 9 p.m. If she wanted to read a book, we would borrow it from the library together. By cutting down on expenses and increasing my part-time work without neglecting childcare, I managed to stretch our budget as far as possible. Mom, are you okay? You look tired. I didn't think I was overexerting myself, but I must have been frowning without realizing it. I forced a smile.
I'm fine, Emily. Don't worry.
When I patted her head, she gave an awkward smile, even more so than mine, and said,
I'm glad.
Seeing her like that,
I felt deeply inadequate as a mother for causing her such worry. Around this time, Caddy started helping with Emily's pickup and drop-off when I couldn't manage due to my part-time job. I'm sorry, Caddy.
Don't worry about it. Emily is our precious granddaughter, after all.
What had caused this change of heart? Caddy, who had once openly avoided me, and Emily, now seemed different. Despite my unease, I had no choice but to accept her help. One Sunday morning, after cleaning up breakfast, I suggested,
Mom doesn't have work today, so how about we go out somewhere?
I wanted to bring back Emily's natural smile. Emily ran up to me, her eyes sparkling.
Mom,
Dad is off work today too, right? Can we go out to eat, the three of us? I'm fine with that, but... I glanced at Evan, who was sitting on the living room sofa, reading the newspaper.
Dad, please? Can we go out to eat, just the three of us? I'm tired. If you two want to go out, just go without me. Please? Just this once, Dad. I want to go out with both you and Mom.
Reluctantly, Evan, unable to refuse his daughter's earnest plea, agreed.
All right then, just for today.
He sighed lightly, folding his newspaper. Emily seemed to have a particular place in mind.
I heard from Lily. That cafe where you and Mom used to go a lot. Take us there.
Lily is a former colleague from the company I used to work for, who still visits us occasionally after I left my job to get married.
Such unnecessary meddling.
Evan clicked his tongue softly while gripping the steering wheel.
Dad and Mom, you two were really close before I was born, right?
How would you know? Do you even remember?
How could I remember something from so long ago?
Evan ended the conversation abruptly, but I found myself smiling at the old memories.
Look, Mom's smiling.
Emily noticed, and I shyly covered my face with both hands.
That's creepy. Why are you blushing?
Evan's scolding wiped away the nostalgic feelings in an instant. When we arrived at the cafe, there was a reserved sign on a window-side table. Emily tugged my hand.
This way.
And she rushed over. Emily, that table is reserved.
When I called Lily earlier, she made a reservation for us.
I couldn't help but laugh at Emily's excitement. Evan, however, seemed uninterested in his daughter's effort, his eyes glued to his mobile phone. After we sat down, a waiter brought 2 large puddings to our table. 15 years ago, when Evan and I were dating, we used to visit this cafe and enjoy these puddings. Seeing the unchanged $2 puddings, both in shape and size, brought a smile to my face.
Doesn't this pudding remind you of our younger days?
Evan didn't even glance at the pudding, engrossed in his phone.
Speaking of which, it's been exactly 15 years since we got married.
As soon as I said it, something struck me. I quickly checked the date on my phone.
Could it be that today is? Dad, Mom. Happy 15th wedding anniversary.
I felt a warm glow in my chest from the unexpected surprise from my daughter.
Thank you, Emily.
But even though there were 3 of us at the table, the third pudding never seemed to arrive no matter how long we waited. It's taking a while. Emily, go ahead and eat this pudding. Emily shook her head vigorously.
This is for you, Mom. Today is your wedding anniversary, so I'm not eating. I paid for it myself.
I tilted my head in confusion at her words. Emily, where did you get the money? I had never given her an allowance.
Grandma gave it to me. She said it was a reward for cleaning the bathroom and the yard. After I got home from preschool, I cleaned her house every day and saved up. Isn't that impressive?
Emily proudly puffed out her chest, but I felt a sense of unease. Did you want to do that yourself? Or did she tell you to do it?
I wanted to give you two a present for their anniversary. Caddy said if I wanted that, I should clean the house. I really wanted to eat the pudding too, but the store clerk said I only had enough money for 2. Next time, I'll save enough to buy 3.
Seeing Emily's eyes sparkle with determination, I felt more sadness than joy.
Dad, Mom, Please stay happy together forever.
Emily's earnest wish made it impossible for me to hold back my tears. Even though she was so young, she had noticed the strain in my relationship with Evan. No matter how much he avoided her and me, to Emily, he was the only dad in the world. For her, it was only natural to want her parents to get along. Realizing how much strain I had put on Emily made me feel deeply ashamed.
Emily, I really appreciate your feelings. But you should eat this pudding. No. It's not mine. It's your pudding. Why won't you eat it?
Emily's face started to crumple as if she was about to cry, and I hurriedly tried to soothe her.
I'm sorry. This is Mom's pudding.
I took a spoonful and put it in my mouth.
It's delicious. The pudding that Emily treated me to is so delicious.
Seeing my beaming smile, Emily finally looked satisfied and smiled back. I ate half of the pudding and then slid the plate over to Emily.
It was so delicious. Mom's full now, so you can have the rest.
Oh, all right. Emily began eating the remaining pudding. She must have really wanted to eat it herself. But she had restrained herself for our wedding anniversary. I felt so grateful that she had grown into such a kind-hearted girl.
Emily is growing up in ways we don't even realize,
I said absent-mindedly, glancing at Evan. Evan, however, was still engrossed in his mobile phone, having pushed the pudding to the edge of the table without touching it.
Why don't you eat a little? She went out of her way to treat us, I suggested.
If you want it, you eat it. I'm not in the mood right now, he replied curtly.
His indifferent response made me doubt my ears.
Didn't you hear what Emily said?
Yeah, I heard her. Something about our wedding anniversary. Sorry, I was thinking about other things,
he said, handing the pudding to Emily.
Did you really think adults would be thrilled with something as sweet as pudding? Here, Emily. You should eat it. You don't have to say it like that. You should appreciate her kindness, I snapped. Well, I'd be much happier sleeping at home than being treated to this pudding,
he retorted. I couldn't contain my anger at his utter lack of appreciation for Emily.
Is that how you talk to your daughter?
Evan didn't seem to hear my question, his eyes still glued to his phone.
Dad, do you hate me?
Emily asked, tears welling up in her eyes.
Sorry, Dad's busy right now. Don't bother me,
Evan replied dismissively.
Do you want to go home?
Emily asked, her voice trembling.
Yeah, let's go home,
he said, standing up without a care in the world. How could he not notice his daughter's feelings? Emily doesn't need a dad like that. My feelings for Evan chilled dramatically. Back home, Emily remained downcast. Something Evan was too absorbed in his phone to notice. I opened the drawer in my room and slipped the savings I'd been accumulating for emergencies into my handbag, then rushed out of the house and headed to a detective agency in the next town. A month later, I was called by the detective and informed of a certain fact.
He is definitely having an affair.
Spread across the desk were dozens of photos showing Evan enjoying meals with a young woman and entering and leaving hotels.
So, it was that after all.
Some part of me had always been prepared for this. Seeing those photos didn't shake me. What surprised me most was that his infidelity involved multiple women.
It seems he didn't have a specific partner. He used dating apps and social media to meet women indiscriminately, with most encounters ending after just one meeting.
Still, the fact remained that Evan had betrayed Emily and me. I immediately went to pick Emily up from kindergarten and headed straight to the train station instead of going home. I called my dad, Neil, and my mom, Rosie, explaining the situation and asking if we could stay with them for a while.
Aren't we going home?
Neil and Rosie are waiting for us. They're excited to see you, Emily.
What about Dad?
I couldn't bring myself to answer her question. Upon arriving at my parents' house, I mailed the completed divorce papers to Evan.
Hey, what do you mean by divorce?
3 days later, Evan called after receiving the divorce papers. It means exactly what it says.
Don't be ridiculous. Bring Emily and come back right now.
Neither Emily nor I have any intention of returning to your house ever again. Evan, not considering his own actions, started to blame Emily and me.
Just cancel the divorce. If you come back now, I'll forgive this whole thing. Hang up and come home immediately. Understand?
Are you finished?
What?
I already know about your multiple meetings with other women. The evidence is overwhelming. His voice became panicked on the other end of the line. It's not just the infidelity. What I find unforgivable is your attitude towards Emily.
What did I ever do to her?
For years now, you haven't contributed your salary to the household. Moreover, you've been withdrawing large sums from our joint bank account every month. Did you think I wouldn't notice? That account was meant for her future, as we agreed. How could you touch that money?
I just borrowed a bit. I was going to put it back soon.
He quickly made excuses, but the amounts were too large and the period too long to be a mere loan. You were buying expensive brand-name gifts for the women you liked, weren't you? I know everything. I have nothing more to say to you. Just then, Emily came over and leaned toward the phone.
I hate you, Dad. Goodbye.
Emily? Tomorrow, we can go to the amusement park together. Evan continued to say something, but I hung up and immediately blocked his number. Evan and my parents-in-law refused to accept the divorce, so we had to go to court. His reason for rejecting the divorce wasn't because he still had feelings for Emily or me, but because he cared about appearances. However, the evidence of Evan's infidelity gathered by the detective was decisive, and the court fully recognized my claims. Ironically, his affair started when he was researching fertility treatments. He came across an ad for a dating app on social media. Out of curiosity, he checked it out and found a woman he liked. What began as light messaging to relieve stress escalated until he couldn't stop himself, eventually meeting the women in person. I never realized how much fun meeting different women could be. He confessed bitterly when he realized he had lost. I was awarded full custody of Emily, and she is now living peacefully at my parents' house under their loving care. Caddy's habit of making a 5-year-old do household chores had already become a neighborhood rumor. It was reported that she forced her to redo the cleaning, even if a single leaf was left in the yard, making Emily cry. Learning that Caddy had used Emily as a servant, under the pretense of being kind, brought me to tears. The divorce further tarnished the reputation of my parents-in-law, who were already struggling under the weight of their actions. Despite the cold looks they received at work, they had to continue to pay the alimony and child support. On the other hand, my parents Neil and Rosie adore Emily. Emily will be a first grader soon. How about we go look for a school bag this Saturday? Or would you prefer the aquarium? Let's make pot au feu tonight with the vegetables Neil harvested. Emily loves it, right? Eat as much as you want. Initially, Emily would sometimes cry, missing her dad, but now my parents do everything they can to bring out her genuine smile. As a result, her no longer forces herself to smile just to cheer me up. She now shows her pure, innocent smile from the bottom of her heart. Watching her radiant smile, I am determined to protect her pure and kind heart.